Every week, NFL teams battle for a victory. The members of the roundtable battle to rank the top 10 teams in the NFL. Guests bring their arguments and defend their top 10. Hosted by Thomas Brown, this is the Rankings Roundtable.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another great edition, Week 8's edition of the Rankings Roundtable Show. I am your host, Thomas Brown Jr., and we have a little extra accessory tonight. You know, now that the Eagles are starting to really show themselves to be an actual NFL team these days, and I'm actually wearing them proud tonight. So therefore, I am wearing my lovely blanket on tonight's show. If you got a problem with it, deal with it, okay? We've come a long way. We went from shades to blankets. We're making progress, baby. All right? Now, as well as you may know, I did not come alone, as always. So, for starters, let me bring in my friend that is a part of Knicksville or part of the Denver Broncos fandom, Keith Richards. How you doing, sir? I can't believe I said that with a straight face.
What we're not doing is we're not calling it Knicksville. Okay, let's just cut that out right now.
Oh man, I tried. Okay, I tried.
Well, you know,
right.
they're 4-3, so whatever.
I mean, look, it's better to be over 500 than under it. You know, it's neither here nor there. Next, we have our lovely Chicago Bears fan, Dan, joining the show. How you doing, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing very good, man. Glad to be here. I'm looking forward to this. I've been salivating at this situation here.
All right. Salivating. Sounds like I'm hungry. Sounds like somebody's cooking in the background or something.
That's it.
No, that's not my lovely lady, of course. But that's neither here nor there. Lastly, we have DJ, New York City all over him. How you doing, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing good, Thomas. Thanks for having me, guys. Happy to be here. Proudly wearing this Giants hat, you know, repping all day, no matter what.
As we are about to find out later on this show, it may not be worth him wearing that hat on for long, but I digress. As we see, Week 8 was something to witness. We saw a lot of teams that showed their dominance in close games. We saw some teams who lost big due to injury and losing the game, like the Buccaneers, for example. But neither less to say, we have some top 10 lists to cover. And, you know, I'm feeling froggy. And yes, I am trolling a little bit. So, DJ, I will start with you. I will give you the grace that comes with being a Giants fan these days and having you start first in something in 2024 before it's over.
I appreciate that. It feels good to be first in something this year. You're absolutely right. So listen, I have to make a revision to my list. Just looking at it right now, see, I had the misfortune. I did not list the Detroit Lions in the top 10. So I am going to take out my number 8 team. I had the Atlanta Falcons. I know you would expect me to take somebody else out. I'm going to talk about that in a second. We're going to take out the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm going to put Detroit back in there. Although there's some weaknesses that they're showing. I don't know if they're totally championship caliber yet, but you know the NFC is having a down year, so that's what I'll say about that. So we're going to put Detroit back in the top 10. I'm going to start with the bottom 5 before we get too optimistic out here.
Sure.
Going from 5 to 1. I'm going to get on, starting with number 5. You guys tell me what you think. It's got to be the New England Patriots. Right now, they're definitely down bad. Coming into this year, they had a top 5 linebacker group. I thought this defense would perform a little better than what we're seeing. At times they do. The coach is saying that they're playing soft. That's a shock to me because then Bill Belichick gets on TV and says, well, it's the same guys I had last year, and we were still good. But, you know, there's a lot going on there. They're in a rebuild. You know, they just lost their legacy coach. They're in the first 5 years of, Tom Brady stepping away and the whole dynasty falling apart. They're in a pretty down bad rebuild. I believe in that coach. I believe in Coach Mayo. I think they're going to get it together the next couple of years. They'll be a better team. But right now, it is what it is. They're at the doldrums of the NFL, not even of their conference, just at the entirety of the league. So I'm going to start off with them. Bottom five, they're the last. They're number 5. Moving up, I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers. I know things look a little better with Big Red under center, but it's still the Panthers right now. They're another rebuild team. Made all the worst decisions there, choosing their quarterback. I think they rushed that decision there out of Alabama. Listen, when a guy has to drink like 6 protein shakes just to make weight and appear that he's over 200 pounds at the combine, that just wasn't a good signal there. I just didn't see that being a good thing. I still believe in him as a talent. I don't know where he's going to fit in the league, but that's it for. I just think that's what's going on in Carolina. And also with David Tepper, the owner, I mean, that right there, it all starts at the top, and that's just too wonky for me. He's out here throwing drinks at people. He's too quick to change leadership, GM, coaches, a lot of other things. So yeah, definitely Carolina's down bad right now. They're going to be there. I have Cleveland Browns at number 3, my number 3 bottom 5 team in the NFL right now. We saw what's going on with Deshaun Watson. I know this is crazy. Hear me out. And I know everyone saw that post-game interview, and I'm still laughing at it, but I believe there's something to Jameis Winston that his talent-wise, he'll probably help turn this thing around, get a 3-game win streak, and it won't look as bad by the end of the year as everyone thinks. But Cleveland's down bad. They gave way too much to Deshaun Watson to begin with. I think that goes without saying. They're never going to come out of that contract, at least for another 2, possibly 3 years, with or without him there. It's so much on the dead cap if they actually do cut their losses and just move on without him, which is something that they should do. So, Cleveland Browns, it's time to start selling if you're the Browns. It's just not going to work out. The window is closing. They do have some good pieces. You saw they already moved Amari Cooper. I think there's some good pieces on the defense. I think Garrett Wilson might be one who's probably going to go within the next couple of years. Or excuse me, Myles Garrett. I said Garrett Wilson. Myles Garrett's definitely going to be one who's going to be on the chopping block in the next couple of years. That'll help save the franchise. They could bring some good trade value to get some of those draft pieces that they let up getting Deshaun Watson. So that's they're definitely in a sell now mode, or they should be, to help save them for the next couple of years down the road. I'll go to number 2, Tennessee Titans. They're another rebuild team, of course. You know what? They're in a quarterback conundrum. You see what's going on right now. They got rid of Malik Willis, who possibly people would have said he's the worst quarterback in the NFL. But you know what? Matt LaFleur revived him. So hey, listen, he's not as down bad as we thought he was. But moving on, Tennessee Titans, still with Will Levis. That's a question mark there. Probably going to go into the draft the next year or 2 for another quarterback. They're still a few years away from righting that ship. And then the number 1 team, listen, I know it all too well. They're tough to watch because they're always in games till they're not. I have my New York Giants there. One of the 5, top 5 of the bottom 5 teams, in the NFL. It's going to be the last year for Daniel Jones. I know a lot of people have so much to say about him, but I always contend that I say Daniel Jones, I believe, has the talent, and could do some things. He doesn't have a high floor, but he does have a pretty high ceiling if you have good pieces around him. I also like to bring to people's attention, year 2 is the biggest jump for an NFL quarterback to make, and Joe Judge was his head coach in year 2. So, with that, I'm not going to really hold it against him that hard that, Daniel Jones hasn't really taken off the way we all hoped. It's going to be the last year for him there, and that's going to finish off my bottom 5. I don't know if you guys wanted me to go through top 10 or if anybody wanted to open up about my bottom 5. Any comments or questions there? Anybody you think I missed?
Yeah, go ahead, Dan. Can you give us our top 10 real fast?
My top 10?
Oh, I'm sorry, DJ. I'm sorry. Forgive me. My bad.
Gotcha.
So I'm gonna keep going. Top 10. I got I'm gonna put the Tampa Bay Bucks in there because I feel like they're scrappy enough to do some damage in the NFC this year. I know they're gonna be an up and down team, but I feel like they're gonna finish as a wild card team, possibly better. They're in the NFC South. I feel it's theirs to lose this year, but I don't see anybody else who's actually going to gain any footing on them. So I'm going to put them in the top 10. Number 9, I had the Minnesota Vikings. Sam Darnold's a big question mark, definitely, but I like the Brian Flores defense. How could you not? It is legit. Sam Darnold he's got to show up in the bigger spots. I think the biggest spot he's going to have to show up is going to be the playoffs. They're going to be a playoff team, but they might look like last year's Minnesota Vikings where they were just they looked more pretender than contender as time went on. I told you I'm replacing my Atlanta Falcons. We're going to bring in the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions look good. I mean, people still question Jared Goff. I think he's the answer. I think it's a good fit for him in Detroit. One thing I will say, this defense isn't as good as their outlook was at the beginning of the year. Right now, they can't rush the passer, and they have no Aiden Hutchinson. We'll see how that plays out as the year progresses. Hopefully, they'll be playing at home in the playoffs. But I also said it's a weak NFC this year, so I still think they could possibly find themselves in the NFC Championship. Moving on, I'm going to go with recency bias. Pittsburgh Steelers, number 7. I love what Mike Tomlin is doing out there. I know that's a crazy pick. It seems that putting Russell Wilson in the game was a good decision. He doesn't look like the Russell Wilson of old, especially with his foot movement. But when you saw some of those throws that he could make, especially that touchdown to Pickens, where he could throw it over the shoulder and put it right where he needs to, he still has some of that left. I think it's going to be enough to get this team into the playoffs. Clearly, Justin Fields did enough getting them to 4-2. Russell Wilson's going to take it from here. But I will say this, if you have to go back to Justin Fields, then you can never go back to Russell Wilson. So that's a situation to watch out for. Number 6, Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels, love what he's doing out there. Love what this offense is doing. Defense is definitely going to be a weak point for them. I don't think they'll make it far in the playoffs because of that. Also, Jaden Daniels is just a rookie. Even though he's playing well, still want to see how far he goes there. Number 5, we'll go with the Buffalo Bills. I like the trade that they made for Amari Cooper. Let's see how well it bodes for the rest of this offense. You know, Josh Allen was playing like an MVP. I still think he's a top 3 MVP contender this year. Number 4, we have the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love, you know what? He's got a mix of a little bit of Brett Favre and some Aaron Rodgers in him. So, you know, he makes these incredible passes and he also makes those crazy interceptions. But I like what they're doing out there. Another one where it's the defense is a little bit more of the question mark for that team. Number 3, we're going to go with the Houston Texans. Love what they're doing with the young coach, DeMarco Ryans. Love CJ Stroud and everything that they're doing. I will say it's a little tentative there because I feel like he's falling a bit into this Justin Herbert category where you see he's a great quarterback, a great young quarterback, but the pieces around him are starting to fall apart. So we'll see how far they get down the line of playoffs. Though I did believe in this defense, even picked them on all my fantasy squads. Number 2, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. Goes without saying, they are the champs. They're still undefeated, no matter how they came about those wins, and they have one of the best quarterbacks in football. But I'm going to go with my number 1 team as the Baltimore Ravens. And you know what? I believe that right now Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback in football. That some people might find that a little controversial. I like to reckon back to, even when Tom Brady, was the GOAT in football, you still saw some of those years where it was between him, Peyton, Breeze, had the up and down, who's the best one in the game. I think we're seeing that between, Patrick Mahomes, who's pretty much been there for the past 5 or 6 years. Lamar Jackson right now is the best quarterback in football, and he's leading the best team. And listen, if it wasn't for, half of a toe touching out of bounds, they would have taken that first game, against the Kansas City Chiefs. But that's my bottom 5, and that's my top 10.
All right, DJ. It's pretty solid to me, man. I'll have a couple questions for you now. All right, I'm gonna tell you that right now. It's coming. It's coming. I'm gonna let you know.
I'm ready for it.
All right. Now, Keith, you have a list of your own that I'm pretty sure you would like to share with us. Let us know. What does it look like, man?
It does not get easier with every passing week. Trying to sort through this list. I try to take the most logical, objective view that I could on it, so I'm going to go bottom up. So at number 10, I got the Eagles. I wasn't as down on them as a lot of people were. I think I had them at 9 last time. They fall to 10 just because they do have some good wins, but they also have some. The loss to the Bucks was bad, and then the loss to the Falcons was bad as well. They got some quality wins, but the level of their losses puts them at 10. At 9, I got the Steelers. Another team that has some quality wins, but losing to the Colts was one that that was pretty bad. Now, the loss to the Cowboys was not great because the Cowboys are such a hot and cold team right now, but it's better than losing to the Falcons like the Eagles did. Then you got the Commanders, another team where some quality wins. The only bad loss I would say would come to the Buccaneers, similar to what the Eagles did, but then they played the Ravens super close, and it's hard to knock them for losing in a one-score game to a team that I have pretty high up on my list. And then you got the logjam between 4, 5, 6, and 7. And really, that comes down to who has played who and who has beaten who. So, number 7, I got the Bills because they lost to both the Texans and the Ravens. So, they're 5-2, but their 2 losses come to 2 teams within that same group. Number 6, I got the Texans who beat the Bills, but they lost to the Packers. I can't put the Texans over the Packers because the Packers beat the Texans. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And then I got the Packers who hasn't played as many games in that group, but they beat the Texans, and then they have a lot of quality wins in between there as well. The Ravens I put at 4 because they beat both the Bills and the Commanders. In between those top 10 teams. And their losses are, they barely lost to the Chiefs. They've been close in most of their games. And really, I'm just basing it on record. I think they might be a better team when all is said and done. But right now, they have 2 losses. I can't put them above the Vikings, Lions, or Chiefs because neither one of those teams has more than 1 loss. Now, I think it's obvious the Vikings get 3 because they just lost to the Lions. Lions beat the Vikings, so they get that advantage with them both being 5-1. And as ugly as it's been, I think I still got the Chiefs as the best team in the league. For sure, the offense looks wonky. By Mahomes standards, he looks really bad. He looks bad by any standards, but when you compare him to Mahomes standards, he looks really, really bad. But the defense is playing lights out. He is getting used to a lot of receivers, which seems to be the case for the last 3 seasons, I feel like. Which he puts a lot of that blame on himself, which I think is fair. But now, with Rashee Rice going out for the season, they bring in someone who, with the likes of DeAndre Hopkins, who gives him a true wide receiver 1 again. And I think that offense is going to start to pick up.
Okay. All right, Keith. Not bad of a list, my friend. Don't worry, I got a question or 2 for you too. So don't think it's easy over there in Mile High City. All right. We're going to go to commercial break. We'll be back. All right. This is the Rankings Roundtable Show. We'll be right back with you.
You are watching Team NBS Media. We are a digital media brand covering sports, entertainment, and lifestyle, with team members all across the country. Through our written content, podcasts, and video content, we bring you fresh and professional content. Interested in joining the team? Shoot us an email or DM. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. This is the Rankings Roundtable Show. And yes, this episode is covered by the Philadelphia Eagles blanket that is on my shoulder for this evening. We have some more lists to cover, and especially mine included. So there's only one guy that I haven't talked to about their list yet, and I'm pretty sure he's going to have some interesting teams there. Dan, let us know what your list looks like, man. What we got?
All right, so we got a lot of things going on, right? I'll start from the bottom as well, as everybody did. I've got my Bears at number 10. A lot of people are going to question that, and that's fine. We haven't beat top-notch teams yet, right? That's going to be the first caveat that people throw out there, or the first argument that I'm going to get. So let's address that. We haven't beat the greatest of teams, but we got a 3-game winning streak going right now, coming off of a bye week. We're 4-2. Not only that, but the Bears are playing as a top 5 defense in this league right now. As far as our coaching and things like that goes, there's a couple of concerns there that I have. But at the end of the day, from top to bottom, the way the offense is coming together, they deserve to be in that top 10, in my opinion. Washington, I have in number 9. After this week, they will drop out once my Bears beat them. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there. Washington is struggling right now. You can see them kind of falling a little bit off. You know, it is what it is, though, and that's what happens in the course of a season. We'll see how they kind of respond to some of the adversity that they're facing recently. The Houston Texans, I think, once again, this is another team that's kind of slipping right now. They were up there a little bit higher to begin the season, and they were rolling. But as was made mention, I think DJ mentioned it or whatnot, they kind of slipping. You see some of the pieces that are not really doing well right now in that offense and some of the stuff that's going on. So we'll see how they continue to, try to either bounce back or right the ship, you might say, in that regard. They can find themselves out the top 10 pretty soon as well. The Steelers, this is a question mark for me because I have them ranked high, but I don't necessarily believe in them where they are right now. I got them ranked at 7, but I don't believe they're a number 17, just in my opinion. But I can't put anybody ahead of them. Those other teams that are below them, I can't put them ahead of them. Tampa Bay, they fell all the way out. A lot of people may have them in the top 10, but to me, they're out of it because you got Chris Godwin went down with injury. You got my man's the other wide receiver, Mike Evans. He's got a hammy issue. That's going to be an ongoing situation. So you got a lot of question marks with that squad right there. And because of the injuries and the things that's going on right there, I got to drop them out of. This is a power rankings. This is not about only the record or anything like that. They're 4-3, so they deserve to be outside the top 10, in my opinion. Let's get the Packers. We got the Packers up there. They're rolling along. They had an injury, but it hasn't affected them really. They're 5-2 or whatever it is. So they're doing pretty decent right now as well. I like that. I like the Packers in there. And that's a good thing because we got a lot of people from our division, NFC North, the black and blue division. It is the best division in football right now. Currently, it is what it is. I don't care what anybody has to say. The Cowboys, the NFC East, none of that stuff. I'm getting off topic and I digress, but I'm going to get back to it. The Vikings, you got to put them at the number 5 spot. They got a prolific offense. Sam Darnold there is a question mark there. There's rumors that, they were shopping around trying to get Matt Stafford and things like that. Whenever teams are doing that, I don't like it. And to me, it's like kind of a panic mode. Sam's playing pretty decent. Let him ride it out, man. Let his confidence stay intact. When you start hearing these rumors, his confidence can be shaken, and we know what Sam Darnold will do at some point in time, right? So it is what it is. You got the Buffalo Bills. You got to put them up there. They're consistent, man. They're like a little machine that just keeps winning, keeps rolling. You with the addition of Amari Cooper, that's a nice look for them. So, I had to put them in the top 5 as well. The Baltimore Ravens, you got Lamar Jackson. You got the outstanding rushing game. You got nice defensive players. You got a nice defense. They're consistent. They're like the Bills. Those are 2 teams that are just consistent, and they're always going to be there because of how the organization is being run, and the coaching staff has those guys, playing at the top level that they could play. The Bills, their defense is outstanding. Their safeties are good. Same thing with the Ravens. And then you got the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, a lot of people are going to have Kansas City number 1 because they're 6-0. That's not a 6-0 team. I hate to break it to people, but let's just be real. Pat Mahomes has got more interceptions than he does touchdowns right now. You got to factor that in. Once again, this is a power ranking show. It's not just about your record, right? So because of that, I have the Detroit Lions at the number 1 spot. And it's because, to me, from top to bottom on their team, offense, defense, special teams, as well as coaching, they're the most consistent and complete team in the NFL right now. You can say what you want to about their pass rush, but on the back end, in the secondary, Brian Branch is playing outstanding football. And so is Kirby Joseph. So when you have those types of guys in there, they're bought in. You got Dan Campbell, who's Gamble, right? Dan Gamble instead of Campbell, because he kind of does unorthodox things when it comes to, his situational football play calling. But it is what it is. I like the guy that can take some chances. And at the end of the day, you know what I mean? You got to give him his credit for what he's done. So from top to bottom, run game, pass game, defense, they from top to bottom, to me, they're the most complete team in football. That's why I got them at number 1.
All right, man. All right. I can't blame you. It ain't a bad list. All right. Now, this is the part of the show where either I become everybody's favorite guy to look at or the absolute worst. Because apparently so far during the time of me hosting this show, I've been everybody's favorite heel. No one likes my list. Everybody has something to say about my list. Well, damn it, it's my list. That's why I made it. Put my damn list up. Let's see what we have here, baby. All right, our top 10 list is very, very short and sweet. All right, I'm going to start my number 1 team and work my way down here. Detroit Lions, I don't think it gets much better than them. When you're second in points per game, it's the fact that you can score at will in the manner that they do is fantastic. It's nothing like it. I saw Jared Goff last week having 22, 25, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns. I saw Jahmyr Gibbs averaging 7.7 yards per carry. That means every time that boy touches the ball twice, it's a first down. That's insane. 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. Very impressive by Detroit Lions, knocking down the Minnesota Vikings, leaving them at number 1 in their division. I got to give number 1 to Detroit. Number 2, I have the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think there's anything more to say when you have a Jackson 5 performance on Monday night. I mean, it just don't get much better than that. It just don't. Lamar Jackson, 5 touchdowns, 281 yards passing. Then you got Derrick Henry in the backfield. I'm shocked he didn't score, but I don't even think it matters when you have 169 yards rushing and you're averaging 11 yards per carry against Tampa. Now, I understand Tampa had a lot of injuries, but that was during the duration of the game. And even if they didn't have injuries, Derrick Henry was still going to run all over him because who wants to tackle Derrick Henry? How about this? Nobody. All right. Number 3, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, they're undefeated. Yes, they're 6-0. And yes, they found a way to get even better at a wide receiver spot by getting DeAndre Hopkins, as we'll talk about later. But we all know what the deal is when it comes to the Chiefs. Their defense is playing out of their minds, like top 5 out of their minds. They're holding running backs to 3.3 yards per carry, which is second in the entire NFL. They're playing lights out. It's keeping them out of harm's way. They're doing their job, and they're undefeated. So we can talk about them being the worst 6-0 team we ever seen. That's actually the worst sentence I've ever heard. How dare we talk about a team that's undefeated as a worst team? I never heard of that a day in my life. It just sounds like a team that finds a way to win to me. But that's just me, okay? We had the Vikings at 4. Now, we understand that they lost that game, but not every loss is the same in my opinion. We saw Aaron Jones last week have 93 yards, average 6.6 yards per carry, and a touchdown to his name. Look, so what? They lost by 2 points. I didn't think that was enough for them to go all the way down my list, so I have them at 4, okay? I have the Packers at 5, which was a toss-up between them and Buffalo. I ain't going to lie, all right? The Packers have an interesting issue here because they have a combination of a guy who can make the sexiest pass you ever thrown and also the dirtiest interception you've ever seen. You can't have both. You can't have the sexy hot wife and then the girl you just met from the corner store. You can't have both, okay? And apparently that's the case with Jordan Love at quarterback. I don't know what that is about, but that's neither here nor there. All right, Tucker Kraft, their tight end, has had a touchdown in 3 of the last 4 games. In their defense, apparently we're not talking about them enough, but they've been very productive as well. They had 4 sacks last week. They're getting to the quarterback, and they've been picking them off very often, and that's enough for them to be at 5. I have the Bills at 6. Josh Allen is still that guy, 323 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I ain't going to jinx the guy, but the fact that we talk about him being prone to throwing bad interceptions or throwing interceptions in general, did y'all know that he has 12 touchdowns to just 0 INTs so far in the season? I don't know about you, but that's fucking impressive, okay? We have the Commanders at 7. Now, this kind of pains me to say, given that they're on top of the team that's covering me on tonight's show. But I have the Commanders at 7 here, tied for first in points per game, third on third down conversions. And their running game is something that is no one really talks about a whole lot. We have Brian Robinson Jr. having 71 yards, 5.9 yards per carry, and a touchdown. So they're getting very productive in the run game, which is something that we've seen as a pattern for them throughout the year. But to see that happen over and over and over again warrants them being in my top 10 list. Okay? Next, we have my brotherly lovely Philadelphia Eagles at 8. I gotta admit, man, the shades had to come off this week. I was hesitant to have them on after last week's performance with the Cleveland Browns. But Saquon Barkley, maybe it was the fact that it was a revenge game, but 176 yards rushing, 10.4 yards per carry, and a touchdown. That's music to my ears. But it only gets better. Because for so long, I've been an Eagles fan where the Eagles defense has been porous, and that's been putting it lightly. Okay, they don't get to the quarterback, they don't pick them off, they become matadors for a living. Okay, the defense got 8 sacks last week. Now, granted, it was Daniel Jones, it's the Giants' offensive line, and all this other stuff. Yeah. 8 sacks is 8 sacks. Okay, it's still an NFL team. They got to Daniel Jones or Drew Lock or whoever else they wanted to put out there, one of their cheerleaders, Brian Daboll, whoever. We sacked them a lot and often. Okay, so I got the Eagles at 8. I have the Steelers at 9, which I got to eat crow on this because I remember a certain someone, by a certain someone, I mean me, talking about how much of a dumbass move of Mike Tomlin to start Russell Wilson against the Jets. And I was wrong. I will say this. I know men don't typically do it, but I was wrong. All right? Russell Wilson had 264 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and apparently it's maintaining the running game. Because Najee Harris, a guy that I've been having an APB out for the last 3 of the last 5 years, he's showing up this year, and I'm very proud of him. 102 yards, 4.9 yards per carry, and a touchdown. That's enough for them to be 9 on my list. Lastly, I have the Texans. Now, I understand they lost last week, but again, not every loss is the same. They lost by a single point to the Green Bay Packers. That's not going to be worth them being removed from my top 10 list. Joe Mixon is still a pretty good running back these days. 115 yards, averaging 4.6 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns to his name. Yeah, they may have some kinks to sort out by the way of getting, I don't know, Tank Dell the football. And no, I'm not saying that because he's on my fantasy team. Get him the football, please, and thank you. That'll be nice. Who else do you have to rely on? Stephon Diggs, who's double coverage? Please. Give it to Tank Dell, please. All right? Now that I've got that public service announcement out the way, that's how I have my top 10 list stand. But, gentlemen, we got a lot of questions that I need y'all to answer. Keith, I'm going to start with you, man. You have the Texans over the Bills. Can you break that down for me?
It's simple. Bills lost to the Texans. I mean, I know it's not about records. When you have a same record with a lot of teams doing a lot of good and a lot of teams doing a lot of bad, I'm not going to put a team that lost to another team ahead of them in a head-to-head when the margins are so thin. I just can't do that.
Okay. I'll work with that. I can work with that. Now, Dan, you. I don't even know which one I would rather ask. I got 2 questions for you.
Bring them both. I want them both. Let's get it.
Okay. Bear with me, Dan. Okay. I know this is not easy. You being in the hot seat. I know that's not a typical Chicago Bears thing for me to say, but that's neither here nor there. You have the Steelers over the Commanders. Can you break that down for me? Why is that?
Because they've won with 2 different quarterbacks. When you got Justin Fields who went out there and he did his thing. Now he's exited stage left, and in comes Russell Wilson, and they were able to not miss a beat. I mean, they put up back-to-back 30-point games or whatever with 2 different quarterbacks. That lets me know that it's more than just a quarterback play. It's more than just these things. It's coaching. It's the defense. It's the offense. Once again, this is a team, like I said, they're a question mark because I didn't want to put them at 7, but I had to. I had no choice, in my opinion. Or no, what did I have them at 8? I had no choice, whatever it was. So in my opinion, they just had to be there, man. Period. They won with 2 different guys.
Why you say that you was forced to? Like there was a gun to your head or something? Did I miss something? You made this.
I didn't think. I didn't think they were that good to start the season. So that's why I'm saying that, right? So when I'm thinking they're outside the top 10 to begin the season, same way with my Bears. Now you have a situation where you have to adjust and you have to change things up. And to me, they've been a team that is playing at a high level. They're playing at a really nice level. They're rolling. Got to give it to them.
Okay. Now, DJ, I gotta admit, you hit me with a curveball that I was not prepared for when it came to your top 10 list. The Lions at number 8.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, before I ask the real question that I already asked, number 1, what type of alcohol beverage did you partake in while you made this list? And B, what strand of weed did you decide to partake in as well? If you don't have to answer it live, that's totally fine. But I'm curious to know, for my own curiosity, as to why you have the Detroit Lions at 8.
I'll tell you, first of all, I was at work. I was sitting in the office when I was wrapping up this list. So number one, I will say I was a little distracted when I did it. That's why I initially had them left off in the first place. I am high on Detroit. I do believe they're a top 10 team. Without Aiden Hutchinson, I do believe I think it's already showing there's a huge deficiency in their pass rush. I know their corners, I know the backfield is playing well, but without that strong pass rush up front, I think that's going to change a few things that you see in the back. They're going to start throwing the ball on them a little more. We'll see how that changes down the line. Like I said earlier, it's still a weak conference, so I believe in them that they could will themselves to the NFC title game, but I still don't see them over a few teams. I could see Washington stealing a game on them in the playoffs. Same thing with the Minnesota Vikings, but I feel like that's the only game I could see the Minnesota Vikings winning in the playoffs, which is why I have them so low on my top 10 list. So, like, I do believe in Detroit as a really good team. It's a weak NFC. And as they go along, we'll see how, the loss of Aiden Hutchinson and these changes affect them on the defense. I also look, I know, like I said before, Jordan Goff, or he's a good fit out there, and he's a good fit for Detroit, but I don't know. There's still a question mark on him. I just don't think he's the guy who's going to win you a Super Bowl. He could probably get that team to him, but I don't think he's going to win one. So no, there was no drink, there was no strain. I'm looking to get some Jack Harrer after this, though. So I'm still in the off season. I can spare it, but yeah, maybe afterwards, kind of go to sleep. But that I'm going to defend that one. I'm high on them, but I'm not that high on Detroit right now.
All right. Well, number one, I want to appreciate your honesty, and number two, it doesn't matter how high you are. It doesn't matter how distracted you are. It's enough for them to have Lions at 8. I have that marked down. Thank you very much. So, as we all know, we woke up to some news this morning. No, it wasn't anybody passing. Calm your asses. Nothing bad happened. DeAndre Hopkins got traded to the Kansas City Chiefs for a conditional 5th round pick. Now, I have my remarks on the matter. And yes, I'm gonna have a lot to say. But Dan, I'm gonna start with you. What was your reaction to the news? What was your thoughts to the news, and where do you think the Chiefs will go after this deal has been made?
I think it's gonna be good for him. I mean, anytime you can get your hands on the DeAndre Hopkins is good. He's not what he was previously, right? So you got to take that with it as well, and understand that he's a little bit older. What, 32, 33? I don't know what he is, but somewhere around there. So he's not a burner, but he is definitely a guy that can get open, that can get you the ball, or you can get the ball to him. And not only that, but he's going to make some plays after he catches the ball too. I liken him to somebody like Keenan Allen from Chicago. These are guys that consistently are able to get open, and they've done it with inferior talent at quarterbacks, in their careers. So you like to see that. It's a nice little look for them. They needed another wide receiver, of course, so it puts them up there. Does it put them above anybody? I don't think so. I think it just keeps them more kind of like where they're at, and they still got to gel. Pat Mahomes got to stop turning the ball over. Like, I'm tired of people ignoring the fact that he's thrown 8 interceptions already. Like, let's address the elephant in the room, and that has to be brought to the table. So, he's got to play better. And sure enough, it is some of your weapons around you. But at this point in your career, this is when they start pulling away the money from the skill position players, and they say, okay, Pat Mahomes, you're that guy, you're the Super Bowl winner, you're the MVP. Go and make these players better that are around you, right? And that's what his job is now. We'll see if he can do it.
Okay. All right. Keith, what was your thoughts to seeing the news, and how do you think the Chiefs will fare afterwards? I know they're in your division, so it kind of pains you a little bit. But
Yeah, I went the R. Kelly route on this. Y'all killing me with this shit. like, like I know DeAndre Hopkins isn't a spring chicken anymore. He's 32. When people say he's down, look at the quarterbacks he's had to play with over the last few seasons. I mean, it's not like he's been playing with not even top 15 quarterbacks. Like he's been playing with bottom of the barrel quarterbacks, and then you go and pair him with one of the greatest quarterbacks, or probably will go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Can you cut us a break? They've been destroying the AFC East for getting close to a decade now. I will agree that Pat Mahomes needs to play better. I think there is more to the argument that he's just playing bad. Like I said, it's hard to, even no matter how good you are, it's hard to keep putting up good numbers when you're not having consistent players that you're playing with. And this is the third year that they have almost a completely different receiver room. But the thing that DeAndre Hopkins brings that they don't have is a good, what I call a possession receiver. They got burners in Worthy and Hardman and Watson, but there's not anyone that they can depend on outside of Kelsey in the red zone on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 12. And that's what he brings. He might be a little bit older, but when you put him on a team that has the weapons that the Chiefs has, a team that he hasn't really played for before, I think he'll be a lot better than what he has been the last few seasons.
Okay, interesting. DJ, I know you saw the news. I know you have a little interesting journey this year with wide receivers appearing up on the news feed. You got Malik Neighbors, have concussion protocol, but he's showing up at concerts. So you and wide receivers and news is not really up your alley these days. But what were your thoughts when you saw the news, and how do you think the Chiefs will fare going into the season?
Well, first of all, let me say it wasn't just any concert. It was a Travis Scott concert. And if you've ever been to a Travis Scott concert or heard about them, I would just say I think that's the reason he needed an extra week in concussion protocol. They are crazy. That's the truth. But I will say this. Hey, listen, Keith said it best. He took the words right out of my mouth. It's about possessions for the Kansas City Chiefs. They need a possession receiver. They were missing that. You see what they're trying to do. They're trying to get that old thing back right now. They brought back Kareem Hunt, even after, the controversy that got him kicked out of town. They brought back Juju Smith-Schuster just because they needed somebody that can help get possessions, that knows this offense, that can help them get things moving right now. And you know what? Keith also said it right. This is the time, we're seeing that big Patrick Mahomes contract. It starts to take precedent. You see Ladarius Sneed, he was let go because they just couldn't work it out with the money with he and Chris Jones on that side of the ball. They have done a pretty good job at drafting on both sides. It's not what it used to be, back when not Kareem Hunt. Oh my God, his name slipped my mind for a second. Cheetah. But anyways, when he was there before he went to Miami. So, so they've been doing pretty good for trying to keep that thing together. And Patrick Mahomes has been winning. I don't think they're going to be hoisting any Lombardis anytime this year. But listen, like he said, it's about possessions. It's about the red zone. This is also Travis Kelce's last year. So they're trying to piece together what they can to keep this championship run going right now. It's a good piece for them. Let's see how it bode wells down the line. D-Hop's also been a little injured. He's had some injuries, especially later on in the season. That kind of goes hand in hand with aging players. So I hope it works out for them. We'll see how well it works out, especially to get a deep run in the playoffs.
Wow. We went from a guy that was arguably the best wide receiver in the game to now we don't even know who his name is because he plays for the Miami Dolphins. I present to you Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill. Why did I want to say Tank Dell? I don't know why I wanted to say Tank Dell.
Obviously, you were thinking about a short guy. I don't blame you. Short Kings are winning this year. Good for you. But no, look, when I woke up and saw the news, I immediately said, you have got to be fucking kidding me. Okay? Only because I've seen this before. Okay? And no, it is not necessarily the same thing, but bear with me here. All right? I recall a certain dynasty in the NFL with a quarterback by the name of Tom Brady, who had me, you, and the audience at wide receiver for some time. Then the Patriots decided that they were going to get a guy by the name of Randy Moss from, at the time, Oakland Raiders. Brought him to New England and created one of the most unstoppable offenses that the NFL has ever seen. Now, am I saying that DeAndre Hopkins is this version's Randy Moss? No. He's 32. He's dealing with some injuries. Let's not be stupid. Now, what I will say is, though, is he does have Patrick Mahomes as quarterback. And for those of you who don't know his resume, he played at Houston with a guy by the name of Brock Osweiler throwing him the football. Yeah, he's no longer in the league. He went to he finally got Deshaun Watson for like a couple years, and then that ended. He got traded for a bag of chips to Arizona, so he finally had Kyler Murray. But then Kyler Murray got hurt, and then, the offensive line was so bad that Kyler Murray couldn't get him the ball. So that ended his time in Arizona. Then he went from Arizona, became a free agent, went to Tennessee out of all places with a guy who has Mayo as a part of his cologne line at quarterback. And, I don't care who you are, Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Justin Jefferson. If that's your quarterback, I don't expect for you to do well. I'm sorry, not sorry. Okay? So to go from a team that's 1-6 with a Mayo quarterback to now Patrick Mahomes and a Chiefs team that's undefeated, can the rich stop getting richer? I mean, seriously. Because you want to know what the expectation is for DeAndre Hopkins is now? We're not asking him to get 100 yards a game. We're not asking him to get, big play after big play. You know what they're asking him to do? Just catch the ball and get 5 to 7 yards after the catch. If you get 5 to 7 yards after the catch, we have a first down. We are close to the red zone. And by the time we get to the red zone, Kareem Hunt can get involved. Travis Kelce can get involved. Whoever. They're not asking for him to save the world. And that's what all these other offenses have ever done, ever asked out of him. Hey, look, we got some shit at quarterback. I need you to make some lemonade out of it. Hey, make it work, please. We need your help. All right? He doesn't have that responsibility anymore. So I think with him joining the Chiefs, it'll be interesting to see the kind of fit he is as far as scheming him open, how that goes. But honestly, with Andy Reid being the guy that's orchestrating the whole thing, I don't think that's going to be that much of a problem. If he can have Carson Wentz in the backfield for play, I'm pretty sure DeAndre Hopkins is going to get his, okay? I just wanted to put that out there. Now that we got, everybody's worst nightmare out the way, I want to address this too. Now, over the weekend, Deshaun Watson ruptured his Achilles, okay? We all were there. We saw it. It was a thing, okay? Now, I want y'all to give me your insight on what your thoughts were about the fans booing him, number one. And two, do you blame him? And three, does this qualify as the biggest heist in the century known as the NFL? Keith, I'll start with you.
First of all, I'd like to thank Deshaun Watson for the contract that he got, because it's the worst contract, and that makes the contract that the rest got with the Broncos not the bad one. So I want to thank him for that, for taking that one for the team. Listen, it's a hard situation to manage and to like view, because the things that we know about Deshaun Watson and the reason why the fans were booing at him is it's not just about, well, yeah, think a lot of it actually is about how he's played, given how much money they gave him, but it's also about the off the field and things that are outside of football that are very sensitive subject matter for a lot of people to deal with. Um, Personally, I would never boo a person being injured, at least not publicly. It's a personal thing, and I still really wouldn't boo him. Like, I would never pray or hope for a player to get injured unless it's Tom Brady in his prime. That's the only time I've ever done that.
Oh my
But
God.
I'm not going to be sad for him that he's injured either. We all seen the depositions. We all heard the stories, the ongoing accusations against him. It's hard to feel bad for a person that has that going on, especially when you couple in that his performance has been bad as well. It's a bad look for the fans for sure. I can neither condemn nor condone them booing him, just because, like I said, it's when you add in all the factors of what's going on with him, with the on the field and off the field, it's honestly it's expected, especially when you give how opinionated fans have become in the last few years, especially with the Twitter age. It's hard for me to agree or disagree with that, because it's a tough situation altogether.
Okay. All right. DJ, I know you saw the whole chaos behind Cleveland booing Deshaun Watson. What were your thoughts on that? And were the fans wrong?
Yeah, the fans were wrong. That's Bush League. I understand. I'm no longer a fan of Deshaun Watson, aka the nasty man. He's wrong for what he did off the field. I was curious to see if he would find a resurgence in his professional football career. That's one interest I did have in him. No longer interested in him as a person, especially seeing how he lied. But that's my piece on it. No, it's Bush League to do that. It's a tough injury. It's a serious injury. No matter how you feel about him, I mean, I always say this. Look, man, I never played in the NFL. I played in college ball, in D2 anyways. But, being hurt on the field, I can only imagine what it would be like, to have 60,000 plus people, laughing at your pain or what have you. It's just not a good look for you as a person. I understand how they feel. And, earlier, real quick, you said that, it was the greatest heist known to man. Let me just say this. That man stole no money from anybody. All right. Now, they stupidly gave him that bag. All right. But he didn't have to kick down any doors, wave the 4-4, do any of that nonsense. There was no robbery going on. They foolishly handed that dude way too much money. I don't see why, don't be mad at him for saying yes to a bad deal. I get where they're all coming from. That's still no reason to boo. So I think the fans are wrong for booing and, doing that publicly. If you have that displeasure, say what you got to say in your car on the way home. But that was kind of rough. That was wrong.
Okay. All right. Dan, what's your thoughts, man?
I think it's bogus. The same people that was booing him were the same people that was cheering when they signed him. Yeah. So I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear the booing. I don't want to hear it. It's bogus. You never laugh at anybody's pain on the football field. Guys go out there and they put their lives on the line because we know that head trauma is a real thing. We know that spinal cord injuries are a real thing. Being paralyzed on the field, those are real things that have happened to players and before. So anytime a guy gets an injury, all the other guys on the football field, they showed him love from both teams, you know what I mean? So on and so forth. And I'm a person that can differentiate the person from what he is, the art from what a person does. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, in my opinion, I think it's goofy, it's cornbally to boo somebody, especially when you cheered for him, when you wanted him. And like my man DJ said a minute ago, at the end of the day, they signed him to that deal. They offered that deal. He was already under another contract, right? So they put him money on top of the old money and gave him even more money. That's their fault. There's nobody's fault but theirs. And people could be upset about what he did and this, that, and the third. But you know what? I'm gonna be honest, and I'm gonna say, okay, we'll call everybody to the carpet. Why is Robert Kraft get a pass and he was down there visiting during the Super Bowl, getting rub and tugs out there. So I mean, I'm just being honest, and that may be controversial for me to say, but it's just the truth. It's the truth of the matter. You cannot, bang on one guy and then turn a blind eye to the other ridiculous things that go on in the NFL as well. And I also say this. They were aware of what was going on. The Houston Texans were aware because they set him up with some of the hotels for him to get and receive massages in. So let's just be real about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, for people to have this, and true enough, it wasn't criminal because there was nothing. He didn't serve any jail time or anything like that. I'm not saying it was right or wrong or whatever. I don't participate in that stuff. So, you take it for what you see it. But at the end of the day, you cannot just hate the man because of something that happened in his past. And it is technically in his past. You know what I mean? How many of us will be shot or burned alive for something that you might have did 20 years ago? So be careful if you live in a glass house. That's all I got to say, especially to the fans in Cleveland. Y'all will suck for a long time. And it's not just because of Deshaun Watson. And mind you, that's why I have them at the bottom of my list. The 32nd team is not just because they're bad right now. It's because the fan base is also factored in to the rankings, in my opinion.
Okay. I would like to tell the audience here watching and all of you guys here that I think it's fair to say that two things can be right at the same time. You can say that on one hand, yes, it is bogus because usually if someone does get hurt on the NFL field, everybody's concerned, everybody's worried. I get that, typically. But in this instance, in particular, it's different. And this is the other side of the coin. I don't think necessarily that the fans were booing Deshaun. I think they were booing the situation. I think they were booing ownership, honestly. Hear me out. So the guy who we all knew was rusty to begin with when you signed him, what was it, 4 years ago? Rusty, we knew that we had all these allegations going on. We knew all this stuff was going on with Deshaun Watson. And yet you decide to pay him $230 million guaranteed. Like DJ said, I can't find a lot of people in this world that would say no to that. Okay? Got it. Then he starts playing and he plays like ass. Straight up ass. Okay? Then we're like, okay, let's give him some time. He only had 5 games off of that 11-game suspension. Let's give him some time. Let's see how he does next season. Next season happens. He plays even worse, gets hurt again. And we're like, all right, you know what? Let's give him some grace. It's $20, $30 million. We can't just sit him or trade him away somewhere. Let's see what he does this year. And then this year happened. And I kid you not, I don't think there was a worse quarterback that played as much, if not worse, than Deshaun Watson this year, both statistically and literally. All right? So as a Browns fan, if I'm watching this week in and week out, the guy that you paid $230 million to, guaranteed, to play for us, and this is the production that we're seeing on the field every single week, I have a problem with that. Take all the stuff that he has going on behind the scenes out of it. I'm just looking at his play. Because look, if we're being honest, we're fans of teams. We've been a part of watching some teams where we've had players on our roster that quite honestly, are scumbags. We don't like them. We know what their past is. We know whatever their history is. But because they're doing great and they're producing, you kind of push that shit to the side. And that does happen. So the fact that the Cleveland Browns fan base couldn't do that because that's how bad Deshaun was playing this year was one of those cases where it was like, where's our return on investment? We paid you $230 million guaranteed to be the savior of the franchise, to do the unthinkable, and this is what you got to show for it? Kind of don't like it. So it's one of those things where it's like, I'm looking at ownership, and I'm also looking at Deshaun too. Like, look, hey, if Deshaun was playing well and he had the torn Achilles, then it would be a totally different story. I think we all can agree on that. But I think it's one of those cases where it's like, damn, all we asked was for you to be competent at the quarterback position, and you couldn't even do that? Are you serious? Yeah, no, that's an issue. We paid you too much money for that. And then it makes it even worse when you have guys like Baker Mayfield, who we totally thought that he was good riddance and that he wasn't worth anything. Ask how he's doing in Tampa today. Joe Flacco led y'all to the playoffs last year off of Deshaun Watson being hurt. Everybody forgot like that happened. He's doing well in Indy this year. It's one of those things where it's kind of like, look, we've seen good quarterback play before. We've seen it. And it's like, as a fan of ownership such as that, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. There's no way that we had to sit here and watch this week in and week out. No way. So off of that alone is frustrating. I can imagine that. And I do want to address this as well. I am not saying that I would be the one to personally be booing the crap out of him. Not saying that at all. I am saying that I kind of don't blame them for booing the situation because it's bad all the way around. So I just wanted to put that out there. Now, before we get out of here, I want to get all the doom and gloom out the way and address the fun part of the show. We have our bottom 5 list. Now, DJ, you covered it. You covered it earlier. Pretty solid list, if you ask me. But Dan, you have a bottom 5 that you have to share with us, my friend. What does it look like?
Well, as I said, Cleveland is number 1 or the bottom 32nd team in the league, because I think they're trash. They're bad. They're a terrible run organization. Coaching is bad. Play is bad from the players. It's not just Deshaun Watson. It's everybody. Amari Cooper was playing bad when he was there. It's just so many issues that they have. And of course, Nick Chubb is just now coming back. So maybe that juices him up a little bit. I don't know. Chubb is a stand-up dude. He'll go out there and play as hard as he can every day. But they're bad right now. They're just in shambles. Let's just put it that way. Carolina, I got them at number 31 or second in the bottom 5. I would say the Carolina Panthers are there because they get blown out quite often. They're playing musical chairs at quarterback as well. They're going back now to Bryce Young after you benched him, and Andy Dalton was not what it was, right? And they're getting blown out by teams left and right. And that's the situation you have in Carolina. They're a bottom team, and they've been that way for about 2 or 3 years now. And I thank them for that because we got Caleb Williams from that situation. Thank you, Carolina, once again. I'll always thank them for that. And then you got New England. New England is another team that's, they're just not good, man. They're just they got so many holes all over the football field. It's ridiculous. They need to address so many things. They're going to be bad for years to come as well. It's going to be a good 5 years before they really see the light of day or the light at the end of the tunnel, you might say, of the dark days ahead. Tennessee is bad at number 4 there. You have a situation once again where you're trading guys away. Do you believe in this guy that you have a quarterback? Do you not believe in him? I don't know. Nobody really knows the direction of the football team. There's no identity there, and so on and so forth. And then the Raiders, I had to put them at 28. I was thinking about putting them at 27, but I had to put them in there because once again, this is a Raiders team that traded away they're trading away players left and right. They're going to probably trade away more players. You got Aiden O'Connell. I guess he went down with an injury. Now you have Desmond Ritter that's coming in. They signed off of some practice squad in Arizona or whatever. And you just have, once again, this is a team that's in shambles as well. So we'll see how that happens or where they go. I think they're the team out of these 5 that can probably turn it around this season and get some type of semblance of a real football organization. Because I still like Antonio Pierce, even though some people were questioning him. I like him. I think he's passionate about the game of football, and you need that from your head coach. But yeah, you trade away your stud wide receiver. It's been nothing but problems ever since he's got there, really. And then not only that, but you turn around and you trade him back to Aaron Rodgers and them. You couldn't find a better fit. You couldn't find somewhere else to send him. What are you trying to do him favors for? As an organization, you're supposed to be doing yourself the favor because he's trashing you publicly every single week. So I don't understand why as an organization would you say, okay, we're going to send you off, or you're trashing us, you're calling us, whatever, and then we're going to send you and like reunite you with Aaron Rodgers. A part of me hates that because I don't like Aaron Rodgers, and I like to see him fail, which he did on Monday night, which was good, and I like to see that. So those are my 5, and I think it's pretty solid.
Okay, I don't blame you at all. And by the way, public service announcement, I wouldn't trust anybody at quarterback that has a cologne line with mayo induced. Just putting that out there in case anybody was wondering. Seriously. But this has been the conclusion of Week 8 Rankings Roundtable Show. Fellas, thank you so much for joining me. Keith and everybody, let us know where we can find you at. Keith, where can we find you at on your socials, man?
Yeah, so at 5280 Keith, covering all things Colorado sports. Reminder that I refuse to cover the Rockies until that team is sold. But yeah, I cover a lot of things Colorado. My child right now is a Colorado Rapid to start their playoff run this Friday. So check me out. I'll be covering a lot of that.
All right. Dan, where can they find you at, my friend?
At Danikin_DG3 on Twitter. You will see me there from time to time. I host the spaces during Sunday where we talk about the Bears pregame, halftime, and postgame. We do a little spaces there. Sometimes you'll hear clips from it on my other podcast, which is 3 Kings of the Midway, where we talk strictly Bears football year round. And then, of course, on Nuts and Bolts as well, I'm teaming up with Christy, and we do the show that she has, and it's what's the name of it? I'm Foul on the Play. I'm sorry. So Foul on the Play, we do that. Check us out, man. We just had an episode drop today, so hopefully you guys check it out. And I just want to brag a little bit. That's my son right there. In football, he got MVP for his league. So 7 years old. I'm proud of it, and shout out to my son for that.
Nice.
All right. MVP. All right. Shout out, kiddo. All right. DJ, where can they find you at, man?
They can find me at DJ The Voice, like DA Voice. You can find me on X, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Like to keep doing some more stuff with Nuts and Bolts Sports. It's been a while. I'm glad to be back. Also, we're getting started with college basketball season, just a couple of weeks away. Queens College in Iona. I'll be announcing for them again this year coming up. No longer with Army football. Time constraints there. Got my second kid on the way. It's time. It's hard to juggle family life with all these assignments though. But basketball's back, and happy to be back at it.
All right, we got kids winning MVP. We got kids on the way.
That's what's
W
up.
For the kiddos tonight. I'm proud of y'all. Good job. That's awesome. All right. Now, everybody, y'all can find me. Y'all see the at here at _ terrific Tom _ at the end because it's infinite around here. That's what we do. Instagram, X, Twitter. You name it, you'll find me. I'm on it. You see this face? It's me. Don't need to question it, second guess it. It's me. Always is, always will be. All right? Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Like, share, and subscribe. We got more content coming up for you guys soon and very soon. And we're out of here, baby. Thank you.